This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon drive. We're starting off here at andBeyond in Ngala with myself, Sean, and we've got Marcel behind the camera. Just like to say a special welcome to all the kids watching. I just remember we'll be answering kids' questions for the first 45 minutes. You can email your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And we have a very lucky start this afternoon, kids. We found the pack of wild dogs again. So if you were there this morning, you'll see they haven't gone very far. All they've done, they've moved maybe 15 meters in the last 6 hours, following the shade. Oh, there you can see one in the background standing up. There he is. So they've just been resting here. We saw them this morning. They tried to hunt. They didn't catch anything. My son and I were chatting and we thought, let's come back, see if they're still here, see what they've done, and see if they hunt again. Because remember this morning they were unsuccessful, which means there's a very good chance they're going to try again. But we've had a change in weather from our 17 degrees this morning to now, we've now changed to a 30 degrees Celsius. So they did tell me what that was in Fahrenheit, but I can't remember. But that's why these dogs are just resting. But what is fantastic is that they are still here. We found them, we know where they are, now we're just going to sit and we're going to spend some time with them. There we go, so 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So all you American folk, you can see it very, very hot. That's why they're just resting. Every now and then though, you're seeing they're standing up, there's their head lifting. There was a little bit of greeting when we arrived about 10 minutes ago. And they're still very aware, they're listening, they're watching. We saw a herd of impala crossing through here on our way in. So these dogs they know what's happening. They're just resting for the moment. Me and myself, we've also parked in a patch of shade. And now the waiting game begins. But while we sit here and watch them sleep, what we're going to do is send you across to Djuma, if you're welcome there with Lauren.
I believe my son disappeared for a while. I think I am using a broken mic lead. I apologize about that. But good afternoon and welcome on board. We're sitting here with these two little wildebeest calves and my name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera with me today. And of course, these wildebeest are always here. It's guaranteed to be able to drive around quarantine and spot our lovely wildebeest herd. And I just thought it was too adorable that these two little calves, I think they're the youngsters, are sitting here next to one another. They're not even sitting in the shade on this very hot afternoon. They are, of course, sitting in the sun, just relaxing. And we have so many of you joining us today from countries all over the world, including US, UK, Thailand, Israel, Zimbabwe, France, Serbia, and many, many, many more. Of course, our South African audience too. So we're so happy to have you on board and please do talk to us. We're going to bumble in the sun today and see what animals we can find. So you must ask us questions and hopefully we'll be able to answer them for you. What is this youngster doing? Was a bird landing on him? Oh, it was an oxpecker. Oxpeckers are notorious for landing on the herbivores. And what they're trying to do actually is pluck out all the ticks, the nasty ticks that are sitting on the skin of the herbivores. But this little youngster, I don't think, is too amused to have an oxpecker land on him. So I'm going to bumble east today to see what I can find for you all. And of course, there's another person that has yet to say good afternoon. So we're going to send you across to James.
Hello everybody, and we are driving down the western bits of Djuma today. My name is James. I've got a grass seed in my throat. Owen is on camera. And it's a lovely warm 30 degrees centigrade here, 86 degrees Fahrenheit if you live in the 19th century. And we're going to go down towards a waterhole because it's quite warm and so something might have come down to drink. And around this area this morning Lauren had a few leopard tracks, so we'll see what turns up. Otherwise we're just going to enjoy ourselves out here, see if we can find some interesting plants and insects. Maybe we'll climb the odd tree, because I still love tree climbing, although I'm very old. James, you're in London and you say that the animals have got very strange names. Which animals? Like zebra? I don't know why a zebra is called a zebra, or do you mean names like the ones that we give to our animals, such as ribbon, or the Shitsalala female? A lot of the names that we give to the animals out here are Shangaan names. The local people here speak a language called Shangaan, and so we normally give those Shangaan names to the animals. Is that what you mean? Otherwise, I don't really know how else to answer that question. A kudu is called a kudu because that's just what it is. I don't know where the name comes from. Same for impala and zebra. Lion is not a very strange name, I didn't think. I'm very glad you're watching all the way from London, even if you do think the names of our animals are a bit odd. I suppose they are. Now, we haven't had nearly as much luck as Sean has had today. He had lots of luck this morning and it started off very well for him this afternoon.
So we still here with the wild dogs. Still haven't moved yet. But, you know, the game's all about patience. It's about waiting, watching, having the understanding that if you wait long enough, something fun's going to happen. And you can see right at the back right-hand corner there, there's one of the painted wolves, as we said this morning, has its head up. It's looking around. It's cooling down. We're getting a bit of a breeze blowing in now. So we got a question now from Michelle. Now Michelle's 16 years old. Oh, look, they're standing. And just in time. So Michelle wants to know what's so special about the spots on these painted wolves. Now Michelle, most of these spots, they just help to camouflage the dogs. Like you can see them there, those ones that just stood up. You couldn't even see them lying in that grass. Now they weren't trying to hide. They were just lying down, sleeping, resting. But the patterns, the colors, the spots, it just helps them camouflage. Now you get a little bit technical when you look at the tail. Now the tail, you can see that white, we spoke about it this morning. All dogs do have that white on the tail. And that would help with puppies in terms of following the parents through the grass, following each other through the grasses so that they can always see each other. But Michelle, the spots on the body, they just there. It's just patterns, just to help them camouflage in the bush. No special meaning. Oh, look at that. All of them up suddenly. Could be, as I said earlier this morning, they maybe heard something, smelled something, or they're just deciding now's a good time to get up. Oh, we got another local, Mike. He's 8 years old, lives in Cape Town. Good job, Mike. Sorry, Mike, I actually forgot your question. Chrissy, can you go into the question, please? I was getting a bit too excited. So how do wild dogs catch their prey? So now, Mike, these dogs, very different to things like the lions and the leopards. So the lions and the leopards, they stalk their prey. So they chase them and they crouch and they get low. Where the wild dogs, you'll see they just run. They just run after their food. They see a herd of impala and then they just run after it. They chase them down. They use rather their speed, their numbers, their stamina to catch their food. So as much as I was saying, their spots hold them camouflage, Mike, they don't really use that to hunt. They just run. I don't know if you were watching this morning, but we saw that happen. I'm hoping it's going to happen again this afternoon. You can see they're starting to get up now. So hopefully they might see some impala. And Mike, if you watch, they just run after their food. Because look at them. Look at the legs. Look at the structure of their bodies. Very big sort of chests, but otherwise quite skinny. So they've got big lungs. They can run far. They've got lots of stamina. And they can just chase their food down. Just tire it out and just chase. That's what makes them so successful, Mike. You know, things like the lion, the leopard, the cheetah, as we said, they got to stalk. They got to get close to their food. Maybe 8, 10, 12 meters, 15 meters from their food. So I said like 30, 40 feet away. And then they break cover. With the wild dogs, they will chase food from 50, 60, 70 meters away. They'll just come running in. Which means their chances of success are slightly higher because they don't need to get so close at the beginning. So we've got another question from Sella, who's 9 years old, living in Johannesburg. She's wanting to know how fast these wild dogs can run. I said that they can go very, very fast. In kilometers an hour, they're probably hitting close on 70, 75 kilometers an hour. I've been driving, we limited to sort of 40 kilometers an hour, and they have just gone past me, and just disappeared into the distance. So when they're hunting, their top speed, probably close to 75, maybe 78 kilometers an hour. But when they're looking and they're just sort of trotting along, they're probably going more like a 30, 40 kilometers an hour. But you can see that a little burst of energy, they stood up, but now they've gone back down. So while we sit here and wait, we're going to send you back to Lauren with some giraffe.
I think the dogs are making a wise decision to sleep in this heat. Now it's very far off, but in the distance it may look like a tree. But we have a giraffe, and I believe it's not just one. I think we have about 5 giraffes across the drainage here, in the complete opposite direction from where we are right now, but we may try and see if we can get round and catch up with them. We spoke about collective nouns this morning, and when you see a gathering of giraffes, if they're moving, if they're all moving together, you'll call them a journey. But if none of them are moving and they're all just stationary, you'll call them a tower. So this is a journey of giraffes. How lovely is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5 or 6 there. I actually went for a run around quarantine earlier and we bumped into a huge bull giraffe. So they're everywhere right now. Hello. Yes, I think this is a youngster. The one that you can see, there's another one. That's number 5. The smaller ones, I think, are the youngsters. And normally when they're very, very young, we do call them calves. They have very, very fluffy ossicones. Those 2 protrusions on top of the head are extremely fluffy in the youngsters. They almost look like pom-poms. And then as they get older, the hair does thin slightly, as it does for us all. And the males go bald, and the females retain some hair. But it's definitely nowhere near as much hair as it is when they're young. It's very sweet. Now, giraffes enjoy spending time with one another, but they don't have strict social structures. So you'll see them following one another. They like to be in each other's companies, but they don't have a strict herd life as other animals do. They're quite loose in their movements with one another, except when a male is trying to find a lady in estrus. James, you're 12 years old and you're in Joburg, which is really not too far away from us. You must visit one day, and you are asking how long are the giraffe's neck. Well, a giraffe from the ground to his shoulder is normally around 5 meters, slightly smaller in females, so it's 4 meters. So that's approximately 12 feet. And the necks can be anywhere between 2 meters to 3 meters long, and that's just the neck. So again, that's about 6 feet to 9 feet. I'm getting better at these conversions. So the neck, of course, is extremely long, but believe it or not, they actually have the same number of vertebrae as we do. So we have 7 separate vertebrae, and so do giraffes. It's just the gaps between each vertebrae is much bigger in giraffes. They have a bigger distance between them than we do, of course, because of that elongated neck. So their necks are extremely long and make them the tallest mammal in the bush. So we may try and catch up with these giraffes in just a bit, but they are quite far away from us. So as I bumble on, we're going to send you back across to James.
You lost me now. Don't know why my sound's not working. I'll have to expose my microphone. Anyway, one of the things that I like doing most in the world is climbing trees. And even though I'm very old, compared with most of you, it's something that I can still do, which I'm very lucky to be able to do. Now, this particular tree is called Peltophorum africanum, or the Weeping Wattle. And the Weeping Wattle is an interesting tree because it's got lots of different medicinal uses. And one of the things people use it for, they take these leaves and they soak them in water. And if your eyes are sore, let's say they've spent the day in the dusty sun, you can drip the water that's been infused with these leaves into your eyes, and apparently that will make your eyes much better. I've never tried it myself. Maybe I shall. The other thing, which is much more amusing about it, is that people say it's used as loo or toilet paper. Now, I don't think that's a really good idea, because although it's soft, it's very soft, these leaves, just like tissue paper, unfortunately the leaves are very small, which means there are big gaps in between the leaves. And frankly, if you're going to have a piece of toilet paper, I think you need to have something more solid than strange little leaves with gaps in between them. You can make that decision yourselves. So this is the Weeping Wattle tree. The other reason for climbing trees in this area is that we're in what we call very gently undulating topography, which means that we can't ever really get high enough up to get a good view of things. And so from time to time, we need to climb up into trees and look around. And that's exactly why leopards climb trees sometimes. Wild dogs, unfortunately, are unable to climb trees, but they are up and they are now saying hello to each other.
That's a very, very good observation, James. Wild dogs are not able to climb trees. I'm just impressed you managed to climb a weeping wattle. Wouldn't have been my tree of choice. But now we've got a little bit of activity. You can see the dogs are up, just smelling each other, a little bit of greeting. You know, they've been sleeping apart, finding different patches of shade for most of the day. So now they're up. They say hello. You might start to hear some noises soon. They do a lot of sort of whining. They don't really bark. They more just sort of whine like your dog at home if he's standing on his tail sort of thing, or if he gets very scared. But we'll see, this is a good sign. It's cooled down quite a lot, especially in the shade. There's a big breeze blowing. I don't know if you can see the trees moving. Right, we got a question from Harvey, 6-year-old. So Harvey, you want to know how many wild dogs are in this pack? Now Harvey, there are 12. There are 12 wild dogs in this pack, including the floppy-eared one and the one without the white tail. So the first thing, Harvey, when we see a pack, we're going to go forwards now. They're moving a bit away from us. Harvey, that's one of the first things we do is we count the number. How many dogs are there? And that lets us know, okay, we got a pack of 12, we got a pack of 10, and that helps us to identify. Now have a look at this one that's walking away from us. Oh, it looks like he's got a bit of a limp. But if we zoom in there, you can see he doesn't have that white tip on his tail. So that male's been here for a long time. But yes, Harvey, there are 12 dogs in this pack. They didn't get very far, and they moved us out of the shade. But wait, we shall. This is how it starts. You know, a lot of the animals, not just the wild dogs, also bears, lions, with leopards. As it starts to get cooler, they will get up, move to more shade, move to more shade. So we got a question from Torrin, 12 years old. Torrin wants to know why these animals are so endangered. Now, Torrin, wild dogs are endangered for a number of reasons. You know, one of the main ones being us, humans. Two things we've done. We have shot them, we have trapped them, we have poisoned them. It was many, many years ago. Luckily, Torrin, that doesn't happen anymore. And another thing is just loss of habitat. So, Torrin, we are taking over their land. As we build more and more houses, more and more farms, the land that these animals can now hunt in Torrin gets smaller and smaller, so it can be less and less of them. But luckily, humans have realized this, and we're actually making big strides in protecting these animals. Torrin, so they are still endangered, but their numbers are improving. I mean, just here in Ngala, we have seen an improvement in the 3 years that I've been here. I've seen more and more dogs every year. In fact, this pack itself, the first year I got here, they had 4 puppies. Unfortunately, all 4 of them did die. It was the first time this pack had ever had a litter, so it's not too uncommon for that to happen. The next year, they had 9, I think, and 2 of them survived, which is still not very good, but it's much better than the previous year. And this year, we'll see. Maybe they'll have even more, and hopefully more will survive. And even just like that, the numbers are increasing. And now it looks like they just moved from the previous patch of shade to this patch. So the waiting game continues. In the meantime, it sounds like James has managed to climb out of the tree, and I'm not sure what he's doing now.
Well, he's driving along. One of the things that you have to do if you're interested in nature, or if you're interested in filming or photographing nature, is that you need to be very patient, like Sean is being now. Because animals, well, it's very difficult to predict when they're going to do the things that we like seeing them do. And so often, you'll spend hours just sitting, waiting for them. But it's always such a reward when they get up and they act, and they hunt, or they run, or they do whatever it is that they do. And there are stories of wildlife cameramen spending months in very tiny little rooms, sort of 1 meter by 2 meters, sleeping and eating and doing everything in those rooms. And by everything, I do mean everything. As they wait for the animal that they're trying to film to arrive. There's a bird in that tree over there that looks quite interesting. Just get out my binoculars. It looks quite interesting, but isn't that interesting. It's a laughing dove. And I was slightly confused, I suppose, by the lovely cinnamon colour on its breast. The dove is a little bit like the impala of the skies, underappreciated and common as you like. Robin, aged 9, in the United Kingdom, wondering what the fastest land bird is that can't fly. The ostrich is the fastest land bird that can't fly, as far as I'm aware. Unless I don't think those... Yeah, now I'm pretty sure an ostrich is quicker than a roadrunner. I think the ostrich is the fastest. I don't think anything's going to beat an ostrich in an all-out sprint. Bird-wise, anyway. It's a nice question. Thank you for that. And I'm just getting... I just saw a termite mound that looked like it had the ears of a leopard on it, but unfortunately it was just a termite mound. It wasn't a leopard peeping at me from the top of it. No, Tom, we don't ever intervene to prevent animals doing harm. Remember that if a lion wants to eat an impala, it's not really doing harm unless you're looking at it from the perspective of the impala. The lion has to eat. He can't eat trees. He can't eat nuts. He can't eat small things. He must eat meat. And so, unfortunately, he has to kill to eat. Now, I wonder if you're a meat eater. Do you eat meat? It's always wise to think about, when you eat meat, where that meat comes from. And we are basically predators, I suppose, in many respects. And so if we was to see a leopard hunting that impala over there, which is now running away, that's so irritating. Anyway, if we were to see a leopard hunting that impala, we wouldn't be able to intervene. We wouldn't want to, because the leopard has to eat, and although it would be very unfortunate for the impala to die, that's just what happens out here in nature. There was a long-tailed paradise wider that went, oh, there it is, and it's lost its tail. That's very funny. Can you see in the top of the tree there, Owen? Have you got it? It's kind of, oh, it's still getting its tail, which would be quite interesting. You got it there? There it goes. Anyway, it's gone now. That's a long-tailed paradise wider without a long tail. I suspect what's happened is it's actually lost its tail, and that's the end of that for the season. So it'll now start to look like one of the females. And let me just quickly show you a picture, because you won't believe the difference between how these things look. Oh, come on, yes, wider. Sorry, everybody, I'm being a bit slow this afternoon. Long-tailed paradise wider. So that's what it looks like when it's breeding. Have you got that? And then when it's not breeding, the male looks like that. So you can see he loses his tail. And so he's probably halfway between losing his tail and looking like that. So that's what he'll look like for the duration of the winter. And we're going into winter now, as those of you in the northern hemisphere go into spring and then summer. Cool, eh? Let's now go across to Lauren, who is doing a little bit of driving.
I am doing a bit of driving. I've spotted a bird, but we actually looped round. Can you get it, Darby? Oh, no, don't fly. Don't fly. Oh, wow. Hello there. What long legs you have. I am actually not entirely sure what bird this is. Look at the length of those legs. It's clearly a raptor. And you see how it's got his beak open like that? It's because it's hot. This is a harrier hawk. Yeah, that's what I meant. Hawk eagle. I said harrier hawk. Hawk eagle. I think it is. And what it's doing here with its beak open is birds also get too hot. And they need to cool down. And when they do this, it's called gular fluttering. And they're fluttering a flap at the back of their throat in order to cool down through evaporative cooling. Yes, I think it is. An African hawk eagle. Isn't that gorgeous, everyone? Although it's got that crest at the back of the head, I'm wondering if this is an Ayers hawk eagle. I don't know if you know what I mean. Those feathers that sort of stick out, that's the crest. African hawk eagles don't have that crest, and this individual definitely did. If there's any ideas for me, do let me know. Hashtag WildEarth. Now I'm looking for the giraffes. Can you believe it? The tallest mammals in the bush have evaded us for now, but do not worry. I think they're along this way. I thought it would be nice to get close to them and get some lovely views of all of them moving together, rather from a distance like earlier. It seems like we're on the birding track today. I don't quite know what species that was, but it looks like James has another bird for you.
Hurry up. This is a Coqui francolin, and it's the most beautiful francolin because its head looks like it's been dipped in melted gold. Well, it doesn't really, because if it did, it would be melted right off. But it looks like, you know what I mean, it looks like it's been spray painted in gold. And it thinks we can't see it. And what it's hoping is that it can just quietly sneak off into the bush before we notice that it's there. See? Trying not to move too fast. Just a few more steps and it'll be utterly invisible in amongst the grass there. That's my favourite francolin. How cool is that? So that's the Coqui francolin. Hello, Cyprian, aged 14 from France. Interestingly, your question has exactly the same answer that a question about the speed of land-based birds has. Ostrich is the biggest bird that we can see here. And we've seen ostriches at Djuma once, and we've seen them in this area many times. And the ostrich can weigh up to 100 kilograms, which is 220 pounds. So that's huge. Then we can see the Kori bustard here, which is the world's heaviest flying bird. And they weigh in the region of 12 to 19 kilograms, I think is the biggest one ever measured. So that's massive for a flying bird. Yeah, it's normally around 12 though. Great stuff. We're going to go across to Lauren now, who's got a magnificent scene with some giraffe.
I don't quite know what these two are doing. They're necking. They're youngsters. I don't think it's too aggressive. That was a big bull that walked past. But these two... No, this is not aggressive. This is a moment of tenderness, I think. It's two females. I think it's two females. No, the one in the front's male, sorry. And the one in the back is female. Oh! What are you two doing? Oh, wow, this is lovely. This is not aggressive. When two males are at each other, they will do something called necking. And this is when they club one another with their antennae. They swing their neck into each other's sides, into the rib cage, and I find it very, very disturbing to watch, and it can lead to death in some circumstances. But this pair, that's a tender moment between them. How lovely. The male is smaller. And he's a young male, but he's flat on top of his ossicones, and I can also see the penis. And the taller one in the back, I think, is female. Oh, so lovely, you two. This is so lovely. Oh, that looked rather painful. I'm not entirely sure this is tender. I think they're just wrestling. This is amazing, everyone. This is absolutely amazing. I think they're just playing. This has to be play. Carla, you're from Scotland. Bonnie, Scotland. Great to have you on board. You're 6 years old and you're asking about the giraffe's Latin name. Wow. Well, let me just tell everyone what that is. The Latin name for a giraffe is Giraffe camelopardalis. And the giraffe part is, well, easy enough to explain. But the second part of the Latin name, camelopardalis, needs to be split up. The first part, camel, is quite literally after the camel. And that's because they do appear to look quite like camels, wouldn't you agree? Camel-like. And they also walk in a similar manner to camels. They have quite a distinctive walk. The second part, pardalis, actually comes from the Latin word for leopard. And that is due to their sort of patchy, spotty pattern that they have on their skin. So giraffe camelopardalis, giraffe camel-like leopard, essentially, is what it means. Great question, Carla. Not many people ask about the Latin name. And the way that they walk, that's similar to a camel, is that it moves the two legs on one side and then two legs on the other side. I'm hoping that this pair, I don't know what they're up to, but I'm hoping they walk. Ah, they're both boys. Just a taller boy has a... Let me look through my binoculars. I'm being blinded by the sun here. Yes, they're both boys. Just one boy has much more hair on his ossicones than the other. Okay, we've got a young boy and an older boy, judging by the size, and I think they're just being boisterous. Boys will be boys. That makes a lot more sense. Hadiwa? Dadiwa, you're 8 years old and you're from Zimbabwe and you're asking how do they sleep? That's a very good question because being this height and this tall with that long neck, it's rather awkward to sleep, don't you think? Yes, this is two boys. This is fantastic. Sorry, I'm just loving this moment. It's not aggressive though. I think it is just being boisterous. So yes, giraffes can rest standing up. It's more common for them to rest standing up. But they can also lie down on the ground with their knees bent, so it's almost sitting down on the ground, and they curl their neck around their body. And this is to sort of, well, keep them nice and tight in a ball, and also to prevent the blood draining down to the head, so they keep their head resting on the body. So it's quite a unique way of sleeping. However, the giraffes are said to be one of the most sleepless animals on Earth. And they're said to only sleep between 4 to 5 hours within a 24-hour period. So within one day, only 4 to 5 hours. So getting up from the ground is really, really not easy. And that's why they don't tend to lie down all the time. They have sort of what we call high alert power naps. So they sleep in short bouts and then wake up again. They don't sleep continuously for 4 hours. Come on, boys. I was hoping one of them would walk so you could see what I mean about how they move with their two left legs and then their two right legs, then their two left legs, and this is the same as a camel. And the reason they walk like this is because they have such long legs, and essentially it stops them getting all tangled up and it helps them balance. That strange body shape needs some balance. This is one of the loveliest giraffe sightings I've had in a long time. I'm glad I chose to come round and see them. So if they were both dominant males, much older, they would be a lot more aggressive. That sort of necking that you see them do would be really aggressive with a lot of power behind it, and ultimately they would be trying to hurt one another. Oh, oh. Michelle, you are 16 years old and you're asking, what do I find most interesting about a giraffe? Well, this older one's been slightly naughty, everyone, trying to mount. I'm going to catch up with them. I think a recent study came out that showed that giraffes are not as silent as you think they are. Giraffes, they're both urinating. Oh my goodness. They're both urinating at the same time. People think that giraffes are very, very quiet animals, but actually they hum all throughout the night. They constantly hum to keep in contact with one another. I just want to try and get a better view of these boys. And we just can't hear it. It's completely out with the human hearing range. So therefore, they're continuously talking to one another through humming. Very, very low sounds. And to our human ears, we just think they're silent, Michelle. And the reason they do this is to essentially keep in contact with one another. They don't sleep the whole night, and they want to alert one another if there's a threat or predators or danger ahead, and they hum. And it's a recent study. Before this study, it was thought that giraffes were almost entirely silent. They do bellow, and mothers are also known to make a sound to the calves, but generally speaking, they're not loud animals in terms of vocalization. And for me, that is the most amazing fact about them. They could be communicating now. The study states that it happens at night, but essentially they could be doing it now and we just can't hear it. There's a lot of youngsters. The bull that walked past at the start, he was a much older bull. There's a lot of youngsters in this group. I can't see that pair, Davy, that were being naughty. Have they stopped? Have they separated?
Can't see them.
This one's having a good old scratch on the vegetation. If you ever wondered how a giraffe scratches its neck, that's how. Valentino, you're from India. Wow, my dream destination. I've been to Sri Lanka many, many, many times, but I didn't quite make it to India, so you're very lucky. You're 10 years old and you want to know why giraffes have such a long tongue. Their tongue is actually, can be anywhere up to 30 centimeters. Now let me just try and think exactly what that is in inches. Oh, I'm not sure I can do that calculation in my head. But it's a very, very long tongue, and it's actually black. You'll be surprised when a giraffe sticks out its tongue because you don't expect it to be so dark. 15 inches, so 45 centimeters, let's say. That's probably more accurate for the bigger giraffes. And it helps them, it's very, very thick. It's almost like rubber to protect the tongue from all the thorns and spines of the vegetation. But giraffes assist... The tongue assists them in collecting more food in those difficult, out-of-reach places. So essentially, if you come across a delicious tree with some yummy, yummy flowers or fruits inside, but there's lots of spines and thorns, you can actually keep your face away from the bush, but you can stick your tongue in and still manage to eat whatever delicacy it is that you're after. So that's why their tongue is so long, but it's said to be black because it's filled with melanin. I'm going to try and see if I can get us another view. And the melanin helps it makes it thicker and makes it rubbery, and it helps protect it from those nasty spikes and spines and thorns. So a giraffe's tongue is actually really, really amazing, Valentino. And when they stick it out and you see that it's black, I get quite a surprise. Well, I've got some mating butterflies. Let's just see if we can take a look at them. So everyone, we've had a fantastic drive so far. I'm actually surprised to hear the time. We are going to continue taking all your wonderful questions from all the children around the world, but we will be accepting questions from everyone now, not just the kids, adults too. So please send in your questions on the usual platforms, and children, don't stop. Keep sending them in. I am more than sure that if your question is great, we shall try and answer it. Oh, look at this. These butterflies are mating. They're acrias. I think they're the window acrias, possibly. Davy just said yes. He's IDing the butterflies for me. And they're mating. It may not look like it, but they are. Normally the male is essentially the one that's in the upright position. But the one underneath looks much larger, doesn't it? Oh, wonderful. It's wonderful to see mating butterflies. They can also mate in the air. So sometimes you'll see the male pick up the female and start mating with her mid-air as they fly. And that's why normally the male is the one that's in the upright position, on top, should I say. We are being watched. I can see you, but we're actually not talking about you. Yes, we're talking about the butterflies. I find it funny when you look up and you see all the animals looking at you. So yes, that bird, I believe, was actually a juvenile martial eagle. That's fantastic news. I'm going to show you a martial eagle, everyone. Martials are, believe it or not, one of my favorite. And I obviously did not recognize it, but it's a juvenile, and I think that's why I completely was off the mark there. This is a martial eagle, everyone. And you can see that crest. So this does not look like what we saw, and that's because this is the adult form. And this is what an adult martial eagle looks like. They've got the long legs and the crest of feathers on top. And I'm going to scroll, Davy, and see if there's any images. Ah, this is the immature. You see how different it looks. And that is exactly what we just spotted there, which is fantastic news. So thank you everyone who sent in that it was a juvenile martial eagle. It is much appreciated. Okay, butterflies, enjoy your romantic time together. Let's see if I can age forward and see these giraffes for one last time. Giraffes are not as easy to catch up with as you would think they are. Okay, now I don't want to get too... Oh, there's one over here. There's one here. Now, they can be quite skittish. So, oh, there's one. Oh, hello, everybody. What about here, Davy? Can you work with that? Look at it. Look at that one eating off the... I think it's a marula. Can you see how it's reaching up? It's using the long neck. And it's just reaching up to eat the leaves that are dangling on the low-hanging branches. Leo, you're 8 years old, also from Joburg, and you want to know how their stomachs work. Wow, what a question. Wow, giraffes are actually ruminants. And what that means, essentially, is that they have a very special stomach. Why do they have a very special stomach? Well, that's because they eat a lot of plant material. And plants contain cellulose. And cellulose is very, very difficult for most stomachs, especially ours, for example. We have a very average stomach. It's very simple and not that exciting. And we would struggle to break down cellulose. It's not possible, really, for a human to digest that. So this is why giraffes do have special stomachs. And I'm going to show you a photo that I think will help explain their stomachs to everyone who is maybe not sure. Ruminants have stomachs with 4 different chambers. So essentially it's the one stomach, but it splits into 4. So I'm going to use my new porcupine quill to show you. They have a rumen pouch, an abomasum pouch, an omasum pouch, and a reticulum. So there's 4 separate chambers to the stomach, and you can see the esophagus, which comes from the mouth, and then the abomasum's the last one that joins onto the small intestine. So it's a lot more complicated than the likes of a human stomach, which is very basic. And again, this is in order to digest all the cellulose in the plants. So they redigest it as well. So sometimes you will see ruminants chewing the cud. And what the cud is plants that they've already chewed, swallowed, and they bring it back up again. Yes, and this is to re-chew it, to help masticate it even further, break it down, soften it, and then they will swallow again. So great question, Leo. A lot of herbivores out here are ruminants, and they have the unique stomachs just to process all that delicious vegetation that they are eating. So wow, what a great start to this afternoon's safari. I think we're going to leave these giraffes now and let them be. And it seems like James has found a warthog for you all.
Not a warthog, no, a water hole. And they're not particularly difficult to find because they tend not to move, which, a bit like the trees and the grasses here, I find a real help when out here looking for things. Things that don't move are generally much easier to find than things that do. For example, the crake that I saw fly into the reeds here, it can move, and is therefore difficult to find, and that's why it is not on camera currently.
Do you copy?
You've got a blacksmith lapwing, have you?
Yes, sir.
They are the most faithful birds, 2 of them, hogging the limelight as they do at all of these waterholes, while a black crake lurks in the reeds, being particularly unhelpful. Good grief, Rob and Megsy, that's not a very relaxed Saturday afternoon question, but absolutely with pleasure I'll tell you a little bit more about symbiotic relationships. I'm assuming that you're meaning commensal relationships, so relationships that are beneficial to both parties. Can you see that dragonfly there, Owen? There's a red dragonfly on the end of a stick just on the wall here. The closest tall stick. Got him. So I guess the most obvious commensal relationship that we get over here is that of the oxpeckers and their hosts, although that does sometimes move over into parasitism, where harm is done to the host. But you'll find all kinds of symbioses out here. Naturally, I can't think of a great number of them right now. Marulas and elephants have a sort of symbiotic relationship. What else? Because the marula tree benefits from being eaten by the elephants, and the elephants benefit obviously from the nutrition of the marulas. The marulas cannot, in fact, germinate without passing through the elephant's digestive system. So that's quite interesting. Now remember, what's he?
On the lily.
You've got the lily, and then we've got a lily, a water lily. So strictly speaking, a symbiosis is kind of it's a relationship between 2 organisms, but they're not necessarily always the same. So you get commensalism, mutualism, parasitism, and then symbiosis. And a commensalist relationship, or a commensal relationship, is the one where both benefit. And that's normally what people mean when they say a symbiotic relationship. If that makes sense. think what else out here about what other kinds of symbiotic relationships there are. There are permanent symbiotic relationships that have actually formed entirely different organisms. And lichens are a good example of that, where a type of fungus and a type of algae came together in a symbiotic relationship and eventually decided to shack up together permanently and form an entirely new kind of organism. So those are nice symbiotic relationships. And if I think of any others as we go along, I shall do my best to tell you about them. We're now on the southern boundary of Djuma at a pan just near what we call Twin Dams. Some refer to it as Lauren's Pan because she spent a lot of time here. And there is not a great deal going on, unfortunately. It was such a hive of activity at the height of the summertime. Right, so Ryan, yes, oxpeckers and buffalo do have a symbiotic relationship. But remember, strictly speaking, symbiosis is, I'm going to read this to you, is any type of close and long-term biological interaction between two different biological organisms. So there are actually only three types of relationship that animals can have, or symbiotic relationships. One of them is commensalism, the other is mutualism, and the other is parasitism. Now, the big difference is that in a mutualism, both partners benefit. Sorry, I was making a bit of a mistake there. Commensalism, only one species benefits. In parasitism, one organism, the parasite gains while the other one is harmed. Okay, so if we look at oxpeckers and buffalo, or oxpeckers and any other organism, or any other antelope that they feed on, the relationship varies. It varies from a commensalism to a mutualism, and then sometimes to parasitism. So, for example, if an animal is covered in ticks, and the oxpecker comes and sits on the buffalo and takes the ticks off, then we are getting mutualism. So both partners are benefiting. The buffalo is benefiting by having the ticks taken off it, and the oxpecker is benefiting by eating the ticks. Sometimes, however, that can move to parasitism, where if the ticks have been eaten off, but they've managed to open up a wound on the buffalo, then the oxpecker will actually sometimes make that wound worse by keeping it open because it wants to eat the blood from the buffalo. Then the relationship has shifted from a mutualism to parasitism. Make sense? I hope it does. It's a really nice discussion, everybody. William, the difference between a dragonfly and a damselfly, I'm going to give, I don't know how old you are, so I mean, I'll give you a simple answer to start with, and if you want a more complicated one, I can give you that. Oh, it's an adult. Okay, we think it's an adult. William, they're part of the same order, if I'm not mistaken, Odonata. Is that right? Is that the right order? I think it is. Anyway, a dragonfly is... Superficially, a dragonfly is easy to recognize because its wings are held out. Okay, they're held out at rest. A damselfly's wings are held or folded at rest. They're both predatory at times. I don't know exactly what a damselfly eats all the time, but I don't think they're as voracious a predator as the dragonflies are. But you're on the orange dragonfly there. So that's obviously a dragonfly. A damselfly would be resting with its abdomen down or horizontal, probably with its wings folded. And in actual fact, they're not part of the order. They're not part of the same order anymore as the dragonflies. And you'll find the eyes also of a dragonfly are much larger than those of the dragonfly. At least than those of the damselfly. also a great question from Michelle. Why do they touch the water so often? Michelle, it depends on the sex of the dragonfly. If it's a female, you'll often see her touching the water with her abdomen, and what she's doing is laying an egg, and the egg is then settling down into the water. If it's a male, he could be hunting insects off the surface of the water, so they'll hunt all sorts of insects off the surface. So two very good reasons. Now, I always thought they were part of the same order, Odonata, but I see that some sources say they are and some sources say they aren't. So maybe they are, or maybe they used to be and they've been reclassified. Lovely afternoon out here. Lovely ambient sounds of birds calling. I can't believe it. We just missed a greenback heron that's flown off. Now we managed to do that. Right, we'll give up on our crake and I think we'll press on and see if we can find something else. Lovely questions there, thank you very much. Ones that really made me have to rack my brain. Now, unfortunately, we have lost Ngala for the moment. I think Sean's trying to follow those wild dogs, and he's a slightly dodgy signal area. So we shall go back to Lauren now, and she's doing much the same as I am.
I am driving. Yes, I am. We're trying to get to the east because it was the only boundary that I didn't check this morning. There was lots of frustrations this morning, of course, because our top predators seem to be evading us. They really are. Our lion pride, the Nkuhumas, popped in last night and then popped right back out again, which is rather sad. I miss them dearly. But I do have a theory, and I'm going to share it with you. I know that many of you are new, but there's also many of you who have been watching for a while. So the Nkuhuma Pride are an offshoot of the Talamati Pride, and the Talamatis are the ones that we hear calling every morning, and everyone gets excited, but because it's so cold in the morning these days, it makes them sound like they're closer than they actually are. So we race and they're not. They're actually on Buffelshoek, a property that we can't traverse. And I think because the Nkuhumas are so closely related to the Talamatis, it's not enemies, essentially. So I think the reason Djuma's been vacated is because the Nkuhumas don't have to worry too much about the Talamatis. And I think that they've gone down south in search of, well, greener pastures, i.e. food. And they come back up here occasionally, but they don't have cubs that need to den. And I also think that they don't need to worry about our game reserve too much because the Talamatis are right there and they're not the enemy. They're closely related to them. And therefore, they don't need to worry about always being on Djuma, calling out and marking their territories. What do you think? Because they popped in last night very, very quickly, stayed at Treehouse Dam and then popped right back out again. I don't know. I feel that the Talamatis will pop down a little bit, but I really don't think it's a worry for the Nkuhumas. Whereas if it was a neighbouring pride that was a threat, then yes, it would be a worry for them. But I think it's because the Talamatis, where they actually come from. I don't think it's a worry for them. It's just my new theory of the day that I thought I would share with you all. But you are welcome to disagree and share your thoughts as well, of course. I'm going to go north today. James likes the north. James has got stuck in the north route and I've got stuck in the south. We both keep going the predictable routes each day. We can't help it. So we're switching it up this afternoon. Agree to disagree. Some of you are agreeing to disagree. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. This is very much Nkuhuma territory. Very much their territory. But of course, if they abandon it for too long, then another pride will come in. It's a vacuum that will need to get sort of, well, swallowed up by one of the prides. But I'm just wondering, the Talamatis don't seem to ever really come past the northern firebreak, really. Will they continue to push in? I don't know. They are related. Connie Babe, you think it's more to do with the fact that they share a lion coalition, which is of course the Avokas. I definitely think that has something to do with it as well. Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me of that. The Avokas are a coalition of 3. They're not regularly seen together as a 3 though, and they are the main dominant coalition that resides over both the Talamatis and the Nkuhumas. Yes, completely agree with you. Completely. That will be a factor. There just doesn't seem to be that much aggression between the two prides. From what I've heard, whenever they have actually met up, there's moments of tenderness. And I just wonder, is that why the Nkuhumas are not worried about coming to Djuma? They've gone in search of food, yes, but why are they not coming here to be so territorial anymore? Just a thought. I drive past this drainage a lot thinking that there's definitely somebody in here, but it's just so thick that I'm not sure if we'll ever actually be able to spot them. It's worth a look though. Drainage lines are great places for cats to sleep, especially your leopards. They're cool, shaded. If I was a leopard, that's where I would be. Okay. To the north we go. Oh, great news. It appears that Sean has finally found some signal again. So we're going to send you all the way to andBeyond Ngala to see what he's up to now. You're not going anywhere. You're staying with me as I am just momentarily deciding where to go. You caught me thinking, where am I going to go? Where are we going to go? I think I want to do Central. Central's a good road. It's central. And that's exactly why I'm going to drive. So sorry about Sean. We must have thought we had signal back for him, and it appears we lost it again. So we are not going to send you across to Sean this time, but we are going to send you to the other male, who is James.
Unfortunately, we can't move just yet. You may just notice the vehicle doing a little bit of a shake. There we are. That's Owen returning from what we call a princess break. I did try to tell the director that, but fortunately my comms didn't go through. No harm done at all. Owen's back. He's feeling relieved. And we're going off towards what was an old hyena den, in the hopes that maybe there's another hyena having babies other than just Raybone. And the reason we do that is that often this does happen, that if the matriarch has got cubs, maybe the others come into estrus, and if they are not dominant, they will set up dens elsewhere, but we can't even see the hole here anymore, which means that it's highly, highly unlikely that anything's got in there. We can have a look there. Hello, age 10. Just about all of the Hyena Burrows will be excavated by Aardvark. Aardvark have got very powerful front legs with strong claws, and they're the only ones that can really dig into the termite mounds. And so Aardvark holes are used by hyenas, wild dogs, aardvarks, honey badgers, porcupines, anything basically that wants to live in a termite mound. Now, I've actually climbed into that den before, and there's not much going in there, or there's not much going on in there now, and there wasn't when I stuck my head into it, but I knew that. The only reason I went in there is that I had to fetch out a robot I'd sent in to have a look, and the string that I was going to pull it out with snapped. And sometimes it is used as a hyena den, but there's no ways all of this vegetation around the den would be there if that was an active den. It would all have been slowly kind of flattened by the activity. Righty-ho, on we go. That's a good question. And bon après-midi to Cyprian in France. Please excuse my appalling French. I can say the following in French. Je suis un cheval, I am a horse. Tu es un canard, you are a duck. And je veux un poisson, I would like a poisson. That's the limits of my French. Sorry about that. A very good question about whether animals can go into the town from here or if it's enclosed. Cyprian, most of the places on the borders of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park are fairly effectively fenced and patrolled. And so the chance of an animal getting out here and getting into a town like, say, Hoedspruit, which is the lamentable settlement where we get our supplies and that sort of thing. This road seems to have disappeared. Very small chance, very unlikely. But there are many other parts of Africa where it does happen quite a lot. So where we have worked before and where we've broadcast before, up in East Africa in the Mara Serengeti ecosystem, there are no fences at all. And so you often find animals in the rural villages there. The animals just wander out sometimes the cattle get hunted by the lions, sometimes elephants go in and raid crops, sometimes they just pass through to go into different areas. So you often get that happening there. And in Botswana it can be quite similar. Huge area, expanses of national park that are not fenced and animals can roam freely. And there's a place in Botswana called Maun where you sometimes get quite a lot of wildlife. There's also a place in Botswana called Kasane where you can frequently find elephants walking down the road, or in Zimbabwe and Victoria Falls you'll often find elephant dung on the main road in the town. It's really quite exciting, isn't it? But in South Africa, not so much. There are some rural villages that do have trouble every so often from wild animals, where, especially in the northern parts, where the patrols are not so good and the people live very, very close to the borders. And then sometimes animals get out and into those villages, but not nearly as much as in East Africa or in Zimbabwe or Botswana, even Namibia. Those places you do get it, yeah. It's quite exciting. I mean, I'd love to wake up in Victoria Falls of a morning and find there was an elephant in my garden. It must be really exciting, if slightly scary. So we investigated that den, nothing there obviously. We'll head up the eastern boundary towards the northeast corner and pop out at another waterhole, and maybe the elephants will have been encouraged to come and have a drink by the slowly fading light and the gorgeous heat of the afternoon. Lovely question, that, Cyprian. If I pronounced your name correctly. Sorry everybody, my microphone is making a strange popping noise. I hope it's getting better now. There's not much I can do, I'm afraid, from here. Darcy, you are wondering about what threats there are to the animals and plants in this area. Well, I mean, I'm assuming you mean external threats, so not threats from within the park. Obviously, all the plants that are being grazed by animals, they're threatened by those animals. All of the prey animals are being threatened by predators. External to the park, there is a threat from human beings, mainly. Those are the main threats. Poachers coming in to try and take animals either to eat or to sell. Rhinos and elephants being good examples, lions to a lesser extent. And they're not, there are quite a few plants that traditional healers might try and take, but I don't think that there are any that are particularly badly threatened. Here's somebody coming down this road, which means this road's been checked, so we're just going to turn down this way. So that's quite a nice, it's quite a nice thing that we know what the threats are, and it's mainly human beings. Then I suppose there are diseases that get into the area, and they can affect animals. So rabies can get in here, but it's all brought in by domestic animals, so we could get rabies through here. We could get bovine tuberculosis from cattle. We could get corridor disease from cattle. We could get canine distemper in the wild dogs, feline immunovirus, so FIV, in the cats. So diseases can come into the reserve and threaten animal populations, for sure. And actually, a viewer sent me a message saying, has there been an uptick in poaching since this lockdown period? And I said, no, I didn't think there had been. And she said she'd read that there had, and I said, maybe that's fake news. She then posted an article by the New York Times, which is not normally renowned for its fake news. And she sent me this article, and it does seem that there has been an uptick in poaching in many areas because of this lockdown, and it's because tourists are not occupying our wildlife areas to nearly the same extent as they would be normally. And poachers are obviously, if they're prepared to take the chance, they seem to be in some areas taking the chance to go into these reserves, and so that's really sad to hear. Haven't heard of anything like that happening here, but it's not only humans that are being affected by the coronavirus. Humans are now affecting everyone else with the coronavirus. You know what I mean? Is she speaking? Lauren's got another pretty thing to show you.
It's just gone behind this bush, but we have the most gorgeous citrus swallowtail butterfly. Hold on, it's fluttering, it's very busy, it's pollinating. Look at that. And Davy also said, look at the size of its proboscis. It's huge. That mouth appendage is massive. And of course, the butterfly itself is one of the biggest that we get out here. And it's just busy going from flower to flower to flower, drinking nectar. Look at that proboscis. Did you see it? And of course, as it's drinking the nectar, it's pollinating. Butterflies are also an important pollinator. Nice work, Davy. You're getting there. This is not easy. Wow, this is one of my favorite butterflies, but I have to say they're not easy to put on camera. They just rarely stop. Whoever called butterflies butterflies did a really good job. Some names in the animal kingdom don't impress me, I must say, but butterflies, it's a good one. I know flutterbys would have been better, but I like to say butterflies flutter by. Oh, that's one of my favorite sentences. We did have a policeman. Let me just see if I can find it. Give me one moment. I don't know whether it's a two-pip policeman or a striped policeman. And I've yet to add striped onto my list. Can you see it, Davy? I also can't. I have a butterfly list where I've been collecting different species. Oh, many of you are saying it's beautiful. We do have a butterfly, an acria. I think it's a window. Oh, and a spotty joker there. You see the spotty joker behind? We have so many different species of butterfly here. It's so beautiful. Okay, one last scan for the policeman. One last scan. Yeah, can you believe it? Someone actually named Butterfly a policeman. Yes. I'd love to meet that person. Unfortunately, I can no longer see it. It's probably very, very busy pollinating.
I thought I saw something go behind, yeah.
Davy thought he saw something. Just give us a moment. Sometimes they pop back out. Oh, we have a painted lady on the ground here, right over my head, Davy. See that painted lady on the ground?
Just mind your head.
Oh, mind my head. Yeah, up here. Oh no, that's not a painted lady. I think that's a diadem. That's a female diadem. Or a monarch. I can't tell from this position. There's a painted lady just up ahead as well. I wonder why there's so many different species of butterflies in one area. Must be a very productive area. Yes, that's the one I was originally looking at. That's a painted lady. Aren't they glorious? Now, just an update, I received a message from a very good friend of mine up in Buffelshoek who sent me some videos of the Inkohomas and the Talamatis clashing. So apparently they have had some very vicious fights. So I was wrong on that one. I have been informed that their encounters are very friendly, but apparently that's not the case. So it looks like my theory may not have any legs to stand on after all. So we are heading to Buffelshoek Dam, and it appears James has another yet very noisy bird for you.
Look, we've got both Coqui Franklins here. That's Mrs. Coqui Franklin. You can see she doesn't have the gold head. She's got lots of other nice colours on her though. And I always find the closer you look at a Franklin, the more marvellous their colours seem to be. Now, if you are a birder, that female Coqui Franklin will look very similar to a Shelley's Franklin, but they are not the same. The Shelley's Franklin is larger. Oh, two. Oh, there are three ladies. Three ladies perhaps having a little fight. One of them's very aggressive. That's really quite cool. So the Shelley's Franklin is larger and has a smaller amount of gold on the beak. Naturally, I can't find. Hang on a second. Let me just find the Coqui Franklin in my app. Yep. So the Shelley's Franklin has almost exactly the same sort of facial arrangement, male and female, but has got a darker beak without that golden bit. Very cool. Well, that was a peaceful sighting. Just up ahead, I did hear a Franklin alarm calling. It probably means it's been given a fright by a sibling or spouse. And I doubt there's a predator up there, but maybe there is. Let's go and have a look. Alicia, you're wondering how many animals that we see over here were around during the Neolithic or the Stone Age. Alicia, I think you'll find that all of the animals around here were around during the Stone Age. None of them have evolved since the Stone Age. So that means that during the Stone Age there were, well, yeah, the full suite of animals that you have here were around, and probably quite a few more. such as you would have found sable and roan and that sort of thing in this area. The Stone Age, look, I'm really no historian as far as this sort of thing goes, but the Neolithic or the Stone Age is, well, I think the Neolithic was the new Stone Age. I think there was probably an old Stone Age as well, but they're defined by human beings and their use of stone tools. So the Stone Age refers to human stone tools being found. So it's the period during which human beings were using stones for tools. Now that's not that long ago. I naturally can't tell you how long ago it is. I guess it's probably 100,000 years to 50,000 years ago, maybe more than that. 100,000 years to 10,000 years ago. In some case, and it'd be different in different parts of the world. But all of the animals here would have evolved by then. We are one of the most recently evolved of all the creatures that you find here. And the animal that you're looking at there are sometimes known as the living fossil, because their design has remained unchanged, if I'm not mistaken, for some 7 million years, which is really quite impressive. Now they're all congregated in one place. Why are they congregated in one place? What reason could they have? They're not feeding. This is round about where that Franklin was alarm calling. But if they had seen a predator, that's why they're congregated in one place. You see the ram there has congregated them in one place. He has decided this is his little herd. Now, for those of you not familiar with the breeding biology of Epsirus melampus, the impala, that idiot looking at us now, and I say idiot, I'll explain why I call him an idiot. He is wasting his time because he is way early. The ewes will be ready to breed or mate during the dark phase of the moon in May. So that's about, 3 to 5 days or so in May. All of this going on, the roaring and fighting that the rams do, and now starting to herd the females into these little groups, is a complete waste of time for this at this time of the year, because there is no way that he will be able to hold a territory with those females in it until the dark phase of the moon in May. And that's because in his current state, he's not eating sufficiently and he's not watching out for predators sufficiently. And so he will start to lose condition very rapidly now, and then eventually be displaced by a ram with better appreciation of timing. So he's herded his little group into a sort of a corral, I suppose, but none of them are going to mate with him. And what's interesting about it also is that although he's being an idiot, he's actually contributing to the species, because without his chasing them, apparently they wouldn't ovulate. They wouldn't start the process of ovulation, which I think is fascinating. Alicio, they will alarm call until they're pretty sure that the predator's gone. So if they saw a leopard walking through here, they would shout their heads off until they were very sure that he'd gone away. There are two predators for which an impala will not alarm call. They will just run. The one predator is the wild dog. So seldom will they alarm call at wild dogs. They'll just turn around and run. And the other, quite interestingly, is the human being. They will run away from a human being long before they'll stand and watch. It's the ambush predators, like the leopard and the lion, that they will alarm call at, because they want to know where the ambush predator is. Because then the ambush predator will normally move away, because once they've been discovered, they know that they won't catch. But there's no good standing in, or there's no good standing and alarm calling at a wild dog, because it doesn't care. It'll just keep coming. It's not an ambush predator, it's a coursing predator. They will alarm call at a cheetah though, which is also quite interesting. Although they are two are coursing predators, they're kind of a mix. They do quite a lot of ambushing in this area too. Apparently the one impala's giving us a beady look. It's probably a look of slight desperation at being herded into this uncomfortable corral by their ram. A ram who chose them rather than they choosing him. Slightly unfair, really. Now, is it 5 o'clock yet? Okay. Now, before we go across to Sean, because he doesn't have anything right now, does he? Right, so some friends of mine got hold of me today and they said, why don't we have a competition, a birding big day? Now, many of you will know what birding big day is. It's a 24-hour period during which you try and find as many birds as you can. And of course, we're all on lockdown, so the idea was for them to have this competition in their gardens. So the rule being that if you can see your house, then you can be birding in that particular area and you're not allowed to break the law. And I thought to myself, well, I think it'd be a really good idea if we did this for everybody here too. So I think that's what we should do. I've just decided this right now. You may or may not decide to take part. The rules are, you've got from 12 o'clock, it's 24 hours. So you've got from 12 o'clock tonight, wherever you happen to be in the world, until 12 o'clock tomorrow night, to name or find as many birds as you can in the vicinity of where you are locked down. So we won't use the whole reserve. We'll have to go and be around the camp and that sort of thing. And I suppose, I'm making this up on the fly. Why don't you you can tweet your results at the end of your lockdown birding big day to the two hashtags. One is the hashtag WildEarth, and the other is the hashtag Lockdown Birding Big Day. Lockdown Birding Big Day. And my friend Graham Charles Marais, wanted me to say his name live because he came up with the idea. And I just want to check if there are any other rules I need to know about. No, I think that's it. So you have to be able to see your own home when you see the bird. I think you have to probably have... Right, rules are one-on-one. You can do it from herd. Okay, I won't tell you about the prize and the punishments that are going to happen amongst this group of people, which are, they're quite wild, some of them. There is no prize for this. There is just my undying adulation if you win. Some of you saying you don't have Twitter, so you can't play it. Well, Twitter is free, entirely free. You can just download it and send it to the hashtag WildEarth. Or you could do it on Facebook, hashtag WildEarth, or hashtag... or you could... I suppose you could post it to my... if you want to. If you don't have Twitter, rather do Twitter if you can. But if you don't have that, you can post it to my Facebook fan page. Hashtag Lockdown Birding Big Day, or hashtag WildEarth. Use both of those. Otherwise, we won't pick them up. Okay. We're now going to go back to andBeyond Ngala, where Sean is driving around, I think.
So we are finally back with you folk. So where were you lost with us? The wild dogs. So we lost the wild dogs, they ran off. But now while we're driving, we saw tracks of a lioness crossing the road. So we're having a look here, there's a waterhole. You can see the other two guys. We called in the rest of the cavalry to help us. They are looking for the tracks now. So we see where they crossed the road, but then we lose them just here on this grass. So they're going to have a look at around the water. I think it's quite possible this lioness has moved off into the shade. It's a hot day. Now this is the lioness. If you remember, quite a few days ago, Rowan found the den, the lion den. So it's that female that we think has the cubs. So where we suppose the den is just behind us on that side. And now we think she came here for a drink and now she's headed into the trees. So they're going to stay here. They're going to have a look. What we're going to do, we're going to loop around, drive another road and make sure the lion hasn't crossed over the next road. And this is how it works. You know, you start, you drive, you find something fresh like this, a track, any sign, and then you got a lead. You know where to start, you know where to go, where you can possibly head in your search. But it's important not to drive over those tracks. Which we were discussing, was this this morning? Or maybe 3 days ago, about how hard it is to see tracks. I was lucky because the car has just driven here and then the tracks are on top of that, so they look quite clear, they look quite fresh. It's much easier for me on the road than it is for them in the grass. Tracking in the grass is very, very difficult. If this lockdown has taught me one thing, it's that I really appreciate my tracker. He has a very hard job. Very hard job. But because it's hot, we are hoping that these lions have not moved too far. Okay, so we've got a question from Kerry. I think the question said, during our training, do we utilize our sense of smell during, guiding and tracking? Kerry, for certain animals, you can smell them. Something like the wild dogs, you can smell from quite far away. Especially if they just walked across the road, or even walked down the road and then turned off. You can smell them. Their smell lasts quite a long time. You could also smell something like an elephant bull that's a must. You can smell, which is a very good warning, because you don't want to walk into that when you're tracking, and you don't want to drive into that either. It is quite scary. Yes, and then scent markings, if a lion scent marks, or a rhino, or a leopard, or anything, scent marks, you can smell that, if it's fresh. Some guys have better senses of smell than others. I struggle to pick up on scent markings, but yes, you can use your sense of smell. It's not a training technique. You don't walk around just smelling everywhere, but it does help. It does help. So they are not going to be doing that. They're not tracking with the sense of smell. It's much easier to actually follow footprints. Especially like now. There's a bit of a breeze blowing. So smell is going all around. But as I said, what we're going to do, we're going to loop around to the other road, see if we can find these tracks, give those guys some time to work. In the meantime, James has found a buffalo.
Here is a buffalo bull. And I think this buffalo bull's been on Djuma for some time because we keep seeing his tracks. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is the reason that the Ngala Pride came onto Djuma yesterday. I gotta tell you, it's extremely exciting to come across one of these temporary muddy pans and find a buffalo bull in it again. Because for 3 years, we haven't had that. And now, clearly, we've got enough water and the buffalo population is perhaps recovering to a certain extent. And hopefully very soon we'll have these big old boys in all of our temporary pans. Unfortunately, he's a little bit nervous. Let's just park here and wait for him, see what he does. Those of you wanting clarification on lockdown birding big day, you don't have to send photographs, you don't even have to send a list. You just have to send a number, but you can't cheat. So you can do it by call or by sight, and all you have to do is send through a number. So don't send through 1,586 because we'll know you're talking pork pies then. As to the hashtag lockdown birding big day and the hashtag WildEarth. Rachel, you've asked one of those completely unanswerable questions. Why are buffalo so amazing? Maybe you're asking, why do people think that they are so amazing? Well, the big thing about buffalo, of course, was that they are rumored and renowned to be the most dangerous animals in all of Africa. That they'll horn you to death as soon as look at you. This guy is now in full charge. But that reputation comes from hunters mainly. And if you try and hunt one of these things and it thinks that you're coming after it, then it will become a massively dangerous prospect. But just viewing them, really not so much. Anyway, so they're part of the Big Five, which is a detestable term that people still unfortunately use all the time. It's a hunting term. And they're part of the Big Five because they were so dangerous to hunt, and they are so dangerous to hunt. But I think that's why we look for them as much as we do. But they're also massive. I mean, that animal is probably 700 kilograms. It's a huge creature. And it is the staple food of many of the big lion prides of the area. He's quite an impressive looking fellow, isn't he? And what he's doing is trying to see if he can smell us. His eyes are good. They're okay. His ears are excellent. His nose is really good, though. Barry, they don't have an alarm call, really, no. I mean, they'll snort if they see something that they don't like, and that will alert the attention of other buffalo. They have a really harrowing distress call, though. It's a bellow that really cannot be mistaken for anything other than pure terrified distress, and that they give when they are being set upon by lions. I suspect he's been lying in that pan for the whole day. Yep, now he's definitely missing a tail. He's most certainly missing his tail. It's probably been eaten through, interestingly, by ticks. He's now depositing a very fresh patty on the ground and shaking water off himself. He's getting a little bit of help on the cleaning front from an oxpecker. Covered in flies. And the old joke, of course, which I've told many of you before, is that they say buffalo look at you as though you owe them money, which I always think is a really nice way to describe the look that they give you. This guy's definitely looking at us as though we owe him something. Now, this is quite interesting behavior. That's a good question, Bob. Would he tower over me if I stood next to him? No. I'm probably about 3 inches taller than his shoulder height. He probably stands about 5'4" at the shoulder. And that would make me 4 inches taller. Not taking any inches off myself. 5'5" at the shoulder. Odd. He's still trying to decide if we're a threat or not. And he's not going back to his water, and that's because we're here, but it's around about the time that he'd get up and go and do some grazing anyway. And now this, of course, is a really big warning for me, because when we go running around this reserve, for the longest time now, we haven't had to worry about buffalo. And now we're going to have to keep our eyes very, very wide open. Let's go across to Lauren. I believe that she has got our reserve's most faithful bird with her.
We do have the most faithful bird, but I've never seen a blacksmith lapwing so relaxed before. Normally they're up, making lots and lots of noise. They're one of the noisiest birds out here. But this one is particularly relaxed. He's lying down. He's obviously having a little rest. Now we are at Buffelshoek Dam. It's very quiet. It's eerily quiet. But it's always worth checking in here. Always. Even the hippos are quiet today. They are here. I saw them. I think they've just submerged. Now we do have a bird off in the distance. Davi, can you work your magic? I don't quite know what it is because it's so far away. It's another raptor. I'm wondering if it could be possibly a Tony or a Wahlbergies. Let me have a look at my monitor. Oh, it's got a fuzzy head. I wonder if this is a juvenile. Has it got that yellow eye? Yes, it has got the yellow eye. I can't see the legs. Normally when you look at the legs, you can see a snake. If it's a snake eagle or a true eagle. Kirst, has it got that yellow eye? Yeah, it's very, very far away. Kirsten thinks it does have a yellow eye. Her screen is much bigger than my one. If it does have a yellow eye, I'm going to go with snake eagle. If not, then I'm not sure. It also looks quite young as well. Adolescent, maybe. It looks like it's got one leg up and one leg down. I don't quite know if that's accurate, but that's what it looks like. I'm just trying to think where to... Oh, hello, Dragonfly. Almost flew into my face. I'm trying to think where to bumble on to next. I think we'll go this way, but I don't want to scare the little lapwing. I don't want to drive past it and upset it. It's obviously thoroughly enjoying relaxing. They are very noisy, but I have to say I love the calls that the lapwings make. Many of you think it's a brown snake eagle. Okay, perfect. We'll go with that. Oh, I'm sorry to disturb you. Off we go. Well done, Davi. You followed it while the vehicle was moving. Not bad. Did you hear it? Ding, 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 ding. That's the call. It sounds like a hammer and an anvil. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, I'm going to decide where to go now. It's very important that we choose the best route. And as I do that, you guys are going to go all the way back across to Sean, who is tracking the lions.
We now have more tracks of a lion on this road, but I think they are different to the ones that we just saw, because these ones are going up the road where that lion is. The tracks that we saw should be coming in from our right hand side, where I've now been following these tracks for quite a while, and doesn't look like it is the right ones. Okay, so now we've got a question from Sahara asking, how do we determine how fresh the tracks are? So Sahara, there are a number of ways. Firstly, you can just look at the track and you can see, you know, if it's older, let's say it's been there for a day or two, the wind would have been blowing or it might have rained on it, so you can tell with how crisp the track looks. And then we also look at the tracks that are around it or even on top of it. So lions, we know, are generally nocturnal. They do most of their moving at night, where something like an impala is a daytime animal. So let's say there's the lion track and then there's an impala track on top. Then we know, okay, cool, this lion walked there last night and the impala has then walked there throughout the day. If, say, we see an impala track and a lion on top of that, then we're like, okay, the impala walked here this morning or this afternoon and the lion has then walked on top of the impala. So then we're like, okay, so this lion track might be much, much fresher. So a lot of it's got to do with the tracks that are surrounding the track that you're actually looking for. And then you got to make your decision based on that. So how crisp it looks and then what tracks are around it, Sahara, is how we tell. And also we look at the tire tracks. So I know this morning someone drove on this road. So now if the tracks of the lion are on top of the car, then we're like, cool, it's been here since this morning. If it's been only, 2 or 3 days since someone's driven here, then the tracks could be anywhere from a day to 3 days old. So it's a number of things. We also just ask. So I ask the other rangers, I say to them, has anyone seen the tracks of the lions on this road? They say yes, no, they were here yesterday, or no, but we did drive there. Then we know. It does get quite complicated, because also these lions can walk very far. So you might find the tracks like we did over there, but actually the lion is 15 kilometers away. It all just depends. That's why tracking at the moment with this whole lockdown is quite tough. Okay, so we got a question from Skimmo wanting to know if there's any updates on the sub-adult lion from the Birmingham Pride. Now, Skimmo, I'm not sure if you're talking about the male or the female, but we'll do both. So the male I last saw yesterday morning, I think. The male that you heard calling, Skimmo, yes. He's doing very well. He's my favorite lion. I keep up to date on him. We saw him yesterday morning. He was just relaxing with his sister, just sitting around with her, and possibly some of the tracks that we're following now. Because just where you saw me now off the car, that's very close to where I saw him, and he's been hanging around that area with his sister. He's been not avoiding the pride, that's probably a bit strong, but the two big males are with the pride. And remember, we said that they will try and fight him, will try and chase him away. So he's been avoiding them, and he's just been relaxing with his sister for the last couple of days. But we haven't seen him. We didn't see him yesterday afternoon. We haven't seen them at all today, any of the lions. But I believe Skimmo, he is doing quite well. He's a big guy. He's a big lion. He's still young, but he's going to turn into a very big male. So the odds, although skewed, I think he's got a chance. It's going to be tough for him because he's by himself. I'm actually dreading the day that he does get kicked out and he does leave. Because he's a very photogenic lion. He's very beautiful. Got a nice mane, good growth, good color. Especially now with the greenery. I've got some nice pictures to upload. So he's looking really beautiful, and I hope he survives. And if he gets kicked out, I try to see where he goes, and then just get updates from wherever he heads. That's the nice thing. I don't know if you know, but some of the Birmingham Pride older males, long time ago, went down to Djuma. So we stay in touch with rangers at other lodges, other reserves, especially those surrounding us, so we can stay up to date with what animals are where, if they've seen it, if they know it. So we're going to carry on here, see if we can find him or his sister, Skimmo, and in the meantime, we're going to send you back to James.
I am driving along at a high speed to try and get to the den of Rybone and see what is happening there. If you are a new viewer, Ribbon, matriarch of the Djuma clan of hyenas. She has 2 cubs. We've seen them twice. We're hoping they're shortly going to make a proper emergence and start playing outside the den. We stake it out twice a day for about half an hour. Lauren did it this morning. I don't think she's on her way there. If she gets there first, she's welcome to go in. But my plan is to go there now. She's not going there. Okay, so I'll go there. Marvellous. The sun is setting. Beautiful Saturday afternoon here in the northeast Lowveld of South Africa. Oh, look! Can you see on the floor there? Ground. Got him? Dung beetle. Good heavens, that's marvellous. Dung beetles have been in seriously short supply of late. Let me go and greet him fondly. Now, I said the other day that maybe the dung beetles would come out after the rain, and then we have had some sun, when we had some sun, and that's what's happened. But very few of them And so this chap, obviously, probably a lady, a little bit late in the season. Where are you going to put that? She's going to take this to bury it. And she's most likely laid an egg in the middle of it. And her egg will hatch into what basically looks like what we used to call a cutworm. And the larva will then devour the dung. Imagine being born in a pile of dung. And then eventually it will pupate and emerge, most likely next summer, from a hole in which this very kind lady is going to bury it, if she is lucky. Vanessa, you say this is fabulous. I think it's quite fabulous. Have you lost sight of him? Her?
Yeah, it's going to be out in the grass now. You can see
she's trying to push it up into this grassy patch here. I'm always tempted to try and help them move where they're wanting to go, but then they tend to come back to where you've pushed them from. I tell you what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to move her off this road, because I think it's going to take a while to dig this. Maybe if I just put her on the middle, Manaki. Come on, my dear. Hold on to your dung ball. There you are. Just have a quick look at her. She's deeply confused now because she's suddenly up in the air. And before she flies off, I'm going to just put her over there. And hopefully she'll be able to bury her dung comfortably there. Good luck. All the best. Hope you enjoy the autumn. Certainly quite late for you to be out, but nice to see you. Let's get over the top of her before she disappears. Quickly race to get the middle manaki under the car and not run her over. Megan, they're unbelievably strong. I think they can push something like, what is it? I'm sure it's not 600 times. It's well over 100 times their own body weight. They're massively powerful for their size. But I don't think they're as strong as ants, for example. Some ant species can lift more than 1,000 times. Chris, no, not always the males push the dung ball. The classic story is that the male will make a nuptial ball. He'll roll it along, and the female and he will then mate and eat the ball together, and she will then fly back to a dung pile, lay an egg in the ball, and that's the brood ball, and then she'll roll that away and bury it. And I'm pretty sure that that was a brood ball. That was really cool. Yeah. Anushka, how big can they make those balls? I guess the biggest one I've seen is about tennis ball sized. They don't get much bigger than that. It's unusual for them to be bigger than a tennis ball. It's unusual for them to be as big as a tennis ball. It's normally sort of somewhere between golf ball and tennis ball. Lauren is now looking at the sun going down. Let's go and find out how that's making her feel.
It's making me feel wonderful. We've actually just stopped because the sunset is just casting this gorgeous golden glow on the impala. And it's just such a stunning view that I thought I should stop and share it with you all. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the sunset. You see how the impala just disappear into the grass like that. And impala are quite tall with long necks. So you can just imagine how easy it is if you're a predator to just disappear in the vegetation. Moment of silence, moment of solitude with the sunset. I'm glad you all enjoyed that. It's oh, one more look. Look at that. It's got an even lower Davi. Just gently sinking behind the Drakensberg Mountains. This is one of the most perfect roads to stop to get this view. You definitely don't get sunsets like this in Scotland, that's for sure. I don't want to tear away from this view, but we probably should travel to see if anyone else is traveling on the reserve. Wasn't that wonderful? Sometimes you've got to just stop and take a moment. And I always say, and I've said this from the very start of my arrival here in South Africa, I've been many countries around the world. I'm fortunate enough to have traveled a lot, and really nothing beats the African sunrise or sunset. Nothing. Nowhere. Maldives comes close, but nothing beats that. Between Djuma and the Masai Mara, probably the best sunrise and sunsets I've ever seen. And we get to share it with all of you. How lucky is that? I am seeing stars now, though. I think I stared at the sun for too long. That's probably not a wise idea. Okay, so hopefully it's getting cooler now. The sun is setting. We may be in luck with animals starting to get mobile. And we are now going to send you across to Sean, who I believe is doing the exact same thing as I am doing, driving.
So Lauren is correct, it's now getting much cooler. We're on a patch of shade at the moment, but temperature's dropped a lot, which is good. We're going to start hopefully seeing some activity, some lion movement, some leopard movement. My soul was just telling me he wants to see a honey badger. That would be pretty cool. But now we're hoping. We got lots of tracks. People are following. Lion tracks, leopard tracks. So the potential is out there. Potential's out there. And it's a good start. As long as you have tracks, you have a chance. What we're doing is driving again along the river. Heading into these sticky areas. Heading past some water holes. Trying to see if we can catch any activity around here. We got an interesting question from Monty, wanting to know how we saw the difference between a female and a male lion track. So it is mainly based on size. So a male lion, like an adult, will be about the size of my hand. So pretty big. Where a female would be maybe a bit smaller, maybe about so big. So male, female would be the main differences. And then you could also see, on average, males will walk in, either by themselves or if they have a brother, maybe one or two. Where generally, again, on average, not all the time, but on average meant the females will walk in a pride. So, you know, you'll see tracks of 4, 5, 6, 7 animals. Would be females. If you see one big track by itself, almost always it's a male. But the trackers will tell you size. Size would be your biggest thing. A male lion has got very, very big feet. Huge paws. Especially at the front, you know, carrying their head, the mane, the shoulders, the upper body is very, very big. And they've got slightly smaller back feet, but so it's like female, male. So that's the sort of size difference, if you can see there. And that's the. Okay, there we go. Marcel's got a picture. Let's just stop there. Is that a male, hey?
Yeah, that's a young male.
This is a young male lion's paw with Marcel's hand as reference. So you can see, I mean, it is big. That male lion is that's a young male. That is a young male. So you can imagine a big adult has got massive, massive paws. Massive. So now we got final control asking if that was a lion cub with Marcel's baby hands. Although he eats a lot, he's got very little dainty hands. There we go. Okay, but while we carry on our search, seeing if we can find anything active, it sounds like James has found some active animals. Oh, some animals.
We have got 2 hyenas here, one of which is Ribbon, and she's away from the hole in her den. And the other, I'm not sure of the identity of. Ooh. But obviously causing the displeasure of her matriarch and leader. I wonder if there's something there they've been eating. It's quite nice to see some action here as opposed to one ear flicking inside the hole. What she's doing here is making sure that the other hyena doesn't go towards the den hole. I wonder if the reticence for her and the cubs, reticence for her to bring the cubs out, or allow them out rather, doesn't have something to do with the fact that her position as the matriarch in this clan is not as secure as it might be. Moving towards the den. Now turning round, watching where Ribbon is. She's just behind that bush. Now she's moving towards the den. This is going to be interesting. I think. I just don't want to start the car because this engine will wake the dead, as Owen says. Here comes Ribbon. Very interesting. I will move as soon as I can. I just want to let this play out without disturbing it with the great groaning, whining, squeaking, belching noise that is this vehicle. Right, I think we can back up now, Owen. As Rybone returns to the den hole. Realise how noisy this car is until you turn the engine off and freewheel. Just going to put us where we normally park. simply because it affords us the best view. She's got a massive belly on her. She ate something last night as well. All right, Owen, how's that? Is that okay? Okay, so we've got... Now, interestingly, none of our regular viewers have identified this cub, or this hyena. It's a youngish hyena, and I don't know who it is. One thing that is very encouraging about our arrival here is that Ribbon wasn't inspired to come and protect the den hole by our arrival. She was very happily lying away, and then this other hyena's presence has caused this consternation. I tell you what I think is going on here, given that no one's identified this hyena yet. I think that this is possibly a new male to the clan. So he will be extremely subordinate to every other member in this clan. And this is what hyena males have to do. They have to go away, leave the clan, and join another clan if they want to mate. And it's interestingly low-ranking male hyenas. Low-ranking male hyenas that will mate. And so they're almost always immigrants. Now, Yume reckons that this is Luca, so that is a clan hyena. Not one we see very often, but it is one. So, there it is. Yume's pretty good. And he is, in fact, from another clan. We're pretty sure. He's quite possibly the father of these cubs. He's quite young, but you can see noticeably smaller than she is. Very cool. He snuck a bit closer. She seems to be tolerating him for now. Quite a few flies around, Owen, just saying. Yes, there are. Certainly quite a few flies knocking about here. There's also a stench in the air. There's the smell of... I think that was a gaseous expulsion. Yes, I think she's just let fly. Oh, that is impressive. No, there's no carcass around at the moment. I think what we've got there is the carcass passing into gaseous phase through the alimentary canal of the hyena and emerging in a glorious green and noxious cloud. Hoo-wee! Oh.
She looks impressed with that one.
She does, rather. And who can blame her? Christina, I'm going to have to explain who Plonk is first. Christina is asking where Plonk is and where I think he is, and apparently he's talked about quite often. Plonk was a little male hyena born to the matriarch, the previous matriarch, whose name was Corky. And Plonk was born, if I'm not mistaken, in July of 2018, roughly around July of 2018. And he immediately filled us with a great sense of wonder and joy, because he was hugely playful and hugely confident, because his mother was the matriarch. And we watched him grow up till he was about, how old was he? He would probably have been almost a year old, and then he disappeared. And I suspect quite strongly that he just left the clan, although does seem to be very young to have left the clan. So there are only two things that could have happened to him. One is he died, and the other is that he left the clan. Now, Plonk got his name, I think, in the most wonderful way. Some people complained quite bitterly when he got his name, but I'll tell you how he got his name while we wait to see how this is playing out. Luca desperately tried to get closer to Ribbon, and possibly his offspring. But Corky used to cork the dens, just like Ribbon does, and that's how she got her name, Corky. And so somebody suggested that we should allow people to vote for a name for her son, but would pick a type of wine cultivar. And we had Chardonnay, and we had Pinotage, because it's South African, and then we had Shiraz, I think, until somebody came up with the ingenious plan to call him Plonk. And he was such a delightful hyena, and Plonk suited him so well. So either he has shuffled off this mortal coil, which is, it's not unlikely given how soon he disappeared, or he left the clan early and went and joined another clan. And I wouldn't put money on either one of those outcomes. If he did leave the clan, though, it was very early for him to leave. But the child, quite possibly, he just started foraging with another member of the clan and never came back to the central den. And interestingly, around the time that he did disappear, we didn't have a central den, so he could still be around, just knocking about with a less frequently seen member of the clan. Lauren's got a special bird. Let's go to her.
A very special bird with a piece of cutlery for a bill. Spoonbills! It's been so long since I have seen spoonbills, and you won't believe it, we're back at Buffelshoek Dam. We had a feeling about Ngala Road, so we looped around, but sadly, nothing. But we tried, and you should always trust your feelings, and you should always check them out. So that meant we ended up back at Buffelshoek Dam from a different direction, and here's two spoonbills. There has to be an interesting collective noun for spoonbills. There has to be. Someone please tell me that there's a great collective name for spoonbills. If there's not, make one up, please. Surely people got creative with that. Now what they're doing is using their spoons to sort of sift through the water. They're stirring up the sediment, literally as you would a spoon into a ginormous tub of ice cream. They're lifting up the mud and the sediment on the bottom to see what delicious aquatic insects or tadpoles or frogs they can find. They are fantastic birds. I absolutely love spoonbills, and they have now just magically disappeared. That's not ideal. Okay, I knew Kirsten would come in. I knew it. We have so far a ladle of spoonbills, or a spoonful of spoonbills. I have to say I like the ladle, Kirst. I knew Kirsten would come in. Send in your suggestions. You must. I'm trying to think. Do you have any suggestions, Javi? Megan, you're seeing a set of spoonbills. That works. A set. I like it. Natty, you're seeing a scoop of spoonbills. Spoonbills. I also like that one. I think I prompted that one with the ice cream. Ooh, Ian, you're seeing a stirring of spoonbills. I also love that. You guys are good. Good job, everyone. I'm obviously not feeling very creative today. Yes, I'm out. I'm sure Mr. Hendry will have some additions to that, but that was a good collection. Ah, many people are saying a canteen of Spoonbills. Is that the official name? I wonder. It sounds good. If you actually Google collective nouns of animals, what comes up will have you laughing for days. There's some great ones out there. There's also some terrible ones. Okay, I think our Spoonbills are slowly disappearing and I want to get back onto that northern cut line. Oh, go Dawie, go. So as we watch the Spoonbills land on the other side of the dam, we're going to send you back across to Sean and see what he has for you.
So we managed to find these, well now 2 kudu. There were 4 up on this mound, but 2 of them have headed away. And 2 reasons. I think the one on the mound watching the sunset was really, really beautiful. But probably you also find prey species like this, be it kudu, be it impalas, whatever it may be. They quite often go up termite mounds, I guess, during this time of the night to just have a look around. You know, you standing up on that mound, they got a much higher view, much better vantage, especially now with the long grass. Oh, and they're gone. But they stand up there and they look around. And they look for any predators, anything moving in the grass, anything, you know, that they might get worried about. Because now it's getting dark. We've probably got, I'd say 10, 15 minutes left of actual light. And then they're going to be looking for a place to sleep. So they're just having a look from there, scouting an area, looking for a place, making sure it is relatively safe. What we're doing, we had no luck with those lions or the leopard. It's also for our trackers, it's just getting a bit dark. It's not safe, it's hard to see the tracks, and you don't want to be walking around now that they're getting active. So we're going to head in the direction of where they had the tracks of these leopards. I think now that it is getting cooler, it is getting darker, we might catch a bit of activity. And you never know, we might get lucky, find one walking down the road or alongside the road. It's worth a look. We're going to first head to a waterhole, see if anything's drinking before it gets dark, and see if our luck holds for the day. Now, this vehicle in front of us was the ones tracking the leopard. So we got a question from Faye, who's 10 years old, and Faye wants to know, what is an apex predator? So Faye, well, you know, predator, something that hunts other animals, that preys on things, and so apex would be at the top. So the apex is like the pinnacle, the top. So the question, apex predator would be the top predator. So for us, things like the lion is an apex predator in this area. There's no predator above the lion. You know, they will kill leopards, cheetahs, wild dogs, hyenas, anything they can kill. So they would be the apex predator. And it depends where you are. You know, in India, you'll find it's the tiger. In America, I think maybe the bear would be the apex predator. So besides humans, of course. But there you can see we have a vulture. So there were 2, and now there are none. They fly to a different tree. So now vultures, very similar to the kudu we just saw, they will sleep at night. And quite often on the dead trees like the one they were on, they will go just perch on those, spend the night there. That's why always now, this time of the evening, if we see 4 or 5 vultures perched on a tree, you know, we don't automatically go there to be like, oh, something's dead. Because most of the time, they are just sleeping. You see there's one flying in front of us, 2 on our left, 1 on the other left, and they are just resting now. Too late to be scavenging, but a lot of the other scavengers are coming out, like the hyena that James has found.
We are still sitting with Ribbon, and Luca seems to have moved away, which is probably a good thing. because it might mean that she'll stick her bottom down there and get the cubs out for a bit of a suckle, but it looks like it's going to pretty much pan out like it has over the last few days. Nassie, that's a really interesting question all the way from Durban. Ribbon's siblings do not necessarily have a position in the clan because she took the hierarchy by force. So let's pretend that Corky was still the matriarch of this clan, and let's pretend that she had given birth to 2 daughters, one of whom was more dominant than the other, and in a couple of years' time, one of them took over as matriarch of the clan. You would find then that although one sibling was the matriarch, the other sibling would certainly share a level of dominance that came from the mother, not from being a sibling necessarily of the matriarch. Probably a bit of both, but she would have developed her and inherited her dominance from her mother. So I don't think that siblings of Ribbons would necessarily have any rank at all further than the rank that they had before. Now, that of course presumes that I can remember whether Ribbon has any siblings in this clan, and I will just have a quick look and see if I can find out. I've got a family tree with me, but I can't open it right now, naturally. Just when it would be useful. So, because she's taken over, it doesn't mean that her siblings will go with her. But if she had taken over, it does mean definitely that her offspring will have a certain amount of status that they wouldn't have enjoyed were she not the matriarch. Does that make sense? Kev, you want to know where on the map this Djuma Den is. So if you go to... Last time I went to Google Earth, it didn't actually have the names of the roads, but basically we are... I'll give you the road name we're on. We're just off Philemon's Cut Line, in between Philemon's Cut Line and Weaver's Nest Road, pretty much directly in between the two. Yeah, further than that, it's very difficult to say because we're off-road. Pretty much central Djuma, though. And we can hear, quite interestingly in the background, the call of a Lavallian's cuckoo. And the Lavallian's cuckoo should be leaving soon, but some of them will stay over winter if they are in their first years. Dungeon Girl, wondering if perhaps hyenas will bite each other to death. Yes, hyenas will certainly bite each other to death. Oh, fight each other to death. Yes, certainly fight each other, and while fighting, biting each other to death. Definitely. Not by default, but if they have a big fight, yes, they can kill each other. Certainly. Okay, we're going to go into infrared now on the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. That was my mechanical noise that turned it into IR. I hope you noticed. So if you perhaps have just joined us, infrared is the technology we use so that we don't have to shine artificial light on the den. I'm afraid I think the chances of us seeing the cubs tonight yet again are very slim, but we will try again tomorrow. We'll sit here for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll carry on and see what else there is. very pleasant just sitting here, I must say. Lovely sounds. Smells not so wonderful. Braskia plant, I would have expected the hyenas to come out and start playing around about 3 weeks old. And then they'll spend, they'll still spend the majority of their time underground. And then slowly as they get older, they'll spend more and more time under the ground, at least above the ground. So from about 3 weeks, I would have thought they will make the odd kind of foray out before then, but around 3 weeks. Sean has still managed to find a little bit of sun up at Ngala, so let's go and have a look at that.
What we have managed to find is a very, very pretty sunset. So the sun's actually set, but beautiful, beautiful colors, especially reflecting off of the water. This is a water hole here. Yeah, you hear the duck. There's a hippo calling now and a hyena calling. So what we'll do, I'm going to keep quiet. We'll sit here in silence and see what we can hear. So what you're hearing is the white-faced whistling duck making those beautiful little whistling noises, and an Egyptian goose in the background. If you want to give it another maybe minute or two, see if these hippos or the hyena call again. Sounds like the hyena was in front of us, which is good. I can see the hippos. They're coming up to breathe. They're not actually just sticking. They're just sticking their nostrils up. It's very hard to actually get on the camera. You can just see a bit of movement in and around the water. There you can see a few of them. So this waterhole probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 hippos inside here. I think it looks even better with that color. I mean, that pink that's reflecting on the water now is just stunning. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of the day. Even without, seeing animals, just being out here, sitting here watching this, listening to the noises. It's quite incredible. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a hyena calling. Very faint. It is quite far away. I'd say back down another road. But I don't see. We actually came here looking for leopards. After seeing what was coming down to this waterhole to drink. This is very close to where they are following the tracks 20-30 minutes ago. But it looks like the hippos are now settling down again, waiting to get fully dark. So what I think we do, carry on, see if we can find this hyena, get a little bit closer so you can hear it calling. Because now everything is starting to get active. The hippos, the hyena, the leopard, the lion, everyone starting to wake up from their full day sleep. You can see the hyenas calling, just trying to find each other, see where you are, where his friends are. Gabby, I wish you were here too. It's always nice sharing a view like this with people, especially if you can get a gin and tonic or whatever else you might be drinking. It just makes it that much more special. But unfortunately, I have to share it with Marcel and his little baby hands. Oh, there's a heron.
Come on, hold your hand up.
But you can see it's getting much darker now, so I'm just going to stop quickly and grab the spotlight to see if we can find any eyes. Let's see. So we are also just going to drive around now, see if we can find anything, any reflections. But in the meantime, Lauren is doing the same thing.
Just giving you a quick view of the Drakensberg, the orange skies from the northern cut line. This time we're on the opposite side of the reserve. Well, not quite opposite. Just a quick view, because I have a feeling about Gallagher shortcut, so we must go. Now, I almost forgot, but some of you have reminded me, so thank you.
Sorry about that. There's some problem. I don't know what the problem is. We've left Driven. And we will continue to search for, well, nocturnal animals, I suppose. Hopefully a leopard. I really desperately want to see a leopard at this stage of the game. Seems like forever since we last saw one. A thick bush making it very difficult. So if you have any questions or comments of a generally conservation-ish type of a nature that we can chat about as we drive along in the darkness, please feel free to send those through now to the hashtag WildEarth. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube or on Twitch. Josh, you're 5 years old and wondering how many years you need to train to take guests out. Officially, there is no period, Josh, so you just have to be over 21. Some people will tell you that you need to do an apprenticeship for 18 months to 2 years before you can be loosed on your first guests. Others will tell you that it takes only about 3 months to learn to take out guests. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between. There is a bunny. Owen, let's do it the bunny, given that tomorrow is Easter Sunday. Most people will not be able to get any Easter eggies, unfortunately, because of the lockdown, including my great-aunt Jill, who was most miffed by this. Can you not see it? It's there. You see it? Owen, it's pretty much sort of... Can you still see it? Okay, I'll wash it in light. Is that better? How's that?
Yeah, it's not great.
It's now gone. You want him? No, he's gone. Okay, anyway, Josh. If, for example, you train at a place like andBeyond, you do 8 weeks, I think they do now, at the training course, and then you go off to the lodge where you're going to work, and the head ranger will decide when you are ready. I personally think that if you find somebody with a good brain and somebody who is keen to learn and works hard, you can probably teach them to do the basic job in about 3 months. That's the earliest, I'd say. I think, however, somebody who's been doing the job for 3 months and taking guests out, they can probably be safe in the bush, but somebody who's been doing it for a year really will be a lot more competent and a lot better at understanding the needs of guests and understanding animal behavior and understanding how to combine his guests' needs with animal behavior, etc., etc. So You know, I would say it takes about a year to learn to do the job, but you don't need that long in order to take guests out, provided you're not an imbecile. I think if after a year you can't take guests out, yeah, you should probably go and be an accountant or something like that. No insult, no offense to any accountants out there. I know a number of accountants who are very good guides, actually. Apparently we have a new feature in the show, and it's called David's Question of the Day.
Yes, we do. David's question of the day, everyone. Send them in. At FC on YouTube or hashtag WildEarth. What do you want to know about David Easter, aka Davy? And Kirsten will choose one. We'll get him up on the bonnet and he can answer it for you. How does that sound? Kirsten says she's going to choose a hard one. Make them hard. Make them sweat. He has it easy in the back there.
So easy.
I'm joking. It's not easy to be a cameraman. Sometimes it blows my mind how they do it. The hand-eye coordination and moving that camera is actually very heavy. It doesn't move with ease, in my opinion. James Hendry seemed to manage the skill. He seemed to have a knack for it. I still remember the days when he was my cameraman. Oh dear. But yes, send in your questions. Kirst will choose one and we shall get Davy in front of the camera. We should think about getting Owen in front of the camera one day too. Sometimes a cameraman can be quite shy because they're so used to being behind the camera that they're not used to being in front of it. So one day we'll manage to get Owen out in front of the camera as well. Oh, Kirsten said the questions are coming in fast. Everybody wants to know about the mysterious cameraman. Kirsten's going to choose the best one. And lots of people think his name is Darby, which is very sweet. But we actually call him Davy. D-A-W-I-E. And it's almost sort of an Afrikaans nickname for David. Davy. Not Darby. But Darby's also very cute. Feel free to call him that. You like Darby? He's not sure about that one. We all have lots of wonderful nicknames for each other. We do live with one another in very close quarters. We eat every meal with one another. Now we're cooking with one another. And of course, after dinner we relax with one another. So we essentially see each other a lot. Sean has found exactly what I am looking for. Can you believe it? I'm still going to keep searching for mine, but it seems like Sean has got lucky enough and found a chameleon.
We have found the elusive chameleon. Chameleon. We've been looking for a while for these guys. It's very hard now because it's so thick. There's so many leaves. I mean, look how well it blends in there. I mean, it is quite incredible. But what we're going to do, we're just going to change to our night vision. So the screen might go dark while Marcel changes to night vision. Marcel, can you do that? And we're going to change that. And we're going to do that. And then you can see them. So even like this, you can see there's a slight color difference between the chameleon and the leaves. So that's how we spot them. So at night, the chameleons turn a much lighter shade than the leaves. Because now you think, chameleons are actually daytime animals. So their vision is very, like ours, very sort of daytime orientated. So at night, we can still see things, but it's hard to make out color. Now the chameleon has the same problem. He can't really see the leaf. So he doesn't know exactly what shade to turn. So they generally go a bit of a lighter shade of green. And that's how we can find them, because they stand out a little bit more. You'll see tomorrow morning, you could come back here and you won't find the chameleon. You'll look on this exact tree, but you will not find them. It is crazy. Even if you know exactly where they are, They just blend in so well during the day. So I'm just gonna, what is that? Bush baby. So I saw some eyes. Okay, so Ben is a 10-year-old, wants to know what's the biggest type of chameleon we get. Now Ben, the only chameleon I've seen here is this one, which is what we call a flat neck chameleon. So to answer your question for us, it's a flat neck chameleon, would be the biggest one that we get. This one is fairly large. I have seen bigger than this though, but maybe half again as big as that. Just under half again. The biggest one we would get. I saw a picture recently of it's a Cape something chameleon that they found around the sort of Western Cape area. And I would say they looked about this size as well.
The Cape Dwarf.
Yeah, the Cape Dwarf chameleon. That's the name. So about this size, maybe slightly smaller.
Yeah, they're going to start getting
But
babies now.
yeah, this is the one that we have. This is the flat neck chameleon. And yeah, this one is big. Not the biggest, but he's big. Beautiful. But we don't want to shine the lights on him too long. There's a lot of owls that will come and get him. Burrows eagle owls, spotted eagle owls. So we got a question from Sassy Cassie, wanting to know how often the chameleons will change their colors. So Sassy Cassie, it depends on the situation. So chameleons will change their colors depending on the situation they're in. So if a chameleon is very stressed, if it's scared, if it's frightened, they tend to go like a grey-black sort of color. If they're just hiding, then they'll go green. So it depends a lot on the situation. If we had to sit here with our normal light, the normal white light, after about 5, maybe 10 minutes, you will see the chameleon has changed color. So to change his color doesn't take long, but it's very situational dependent. He can change his color in the daytime to go grey. I've seen it once. There was one in the road, and I almost drove over it, so it obviously got a big fright. And from when I saw it and I braked and I turned to when I got out the car to look, was maybe 5 to 7 seconds. And it was already starting to go grey and black. So when they're stressed, very quickly. You can actually see the stripes on the side of this chameleon here. There's a dot halfway up the back, and there's some stripe going down the sides. You can see his little eye moving as well. But as I said, we don't want to give his position away. There are animals that will eat him, wild cats, things like that. So what we're going to do is give this one a break, send you across to Lauren, who seems to have found one as well.
I found what I was looking for, everyone. We're just positioning nice and closely so we can get a good view. How is that? Finally.
Spotlight.
Finally. We have a chameleon. There we go, little guy. How are you? I know it's getting to that time when it's time for you to rest, and that's how we spotted you. Oh, hello. Aren't they gorgeous? I know Sean managed to find one, but still, I was looking for one, and I figured, well, I've managed. So at least you can have a look at the Djuma chameleons nice and close. Look at the eyes moving. You see the pupil dilate? It's taking everything in. Who are they? What are they doing? Hannah, I don't. What is a baby chameleon called? Tell me, Hannah. I actually don't know. I would like to know, though. I actually don't know if they have a name or if they probably do, and I hope it's something nice and cute. Oh, look at that. This is a flap-necked chameleon. The most common you get here. And you are, oh, look at that back foot. Oh, that's so sweet, that back leg, Davy. Are you ready for this, Hannah? Kirsten said She checked with Google because I didn't know. And are you ready? Google says that baby chameleons are called chameleons. Did you like that, Hannah? I hope so. Yes, all reptiles when they're originally emerged from the eggs are called hatchlings. That is true. But it's when they're very, very... Look at that foot. Oh, you can see the scales. You can see the claws. The 4 digits. Oh, you don't know which way you want to go, little guy, do you? You're not sure. Is gorgeous. They're incredibly slow moving, of course, because they rely so heavily on camouflage. They don't move too fast because they're trying to blend in with the tree. Oh, I've fallen in love, everyone. I'm a reptile fanatic. I used to have a bearded dragon called Floyd. Oh, we love Floyd. You see how the tail's curled up like that? The tail assists in holding on to branches, sticks. Wow. Oh, look. Now it's getting ready to rest. They are diurnal. Many people sometimes mistake them to be nocturnal because we find them at night time, but they are in fact diurnal. Oh. And they'll rest at night time. I am being attacked by stink bugs. Wonderful. And the name chameleon actually has quite an interesting story of where it comes from. It's believed to come from the Greek word kamai, I hope I'm saying that right, which actually means on the ground or earth, and leon, which is also Greek, and that means lion. So kamai, leon, on the ground lion. Perfect. Well, we're going to let this little guy be and rest, and hopefully the next time you see us we will have a fantastic question ready for Davi. We're going to quickly bumble up power lines looking for Hukamore, and I believe Mr. Henry also thinks he's found a chameleon.
No, I haven't found a chameleon. I've found a lacewing. I found it, but I cannot, for the life of me, make Owen see it. Nor can I make the spotlight sit. Okay, right, here we go. No one believes me. Can you see this grass stick, Owen, that I am moving with? Yes. I'm probably going to be savaged by a rabid mamba under here. Can you see the grass stick? Can you see the lacewing? No, it's not behind a leaf. Can you see it?
Yes, now we can.
Oh, thank goodness. I will break this leaf because it was in the way. You can see it now. Thank goodness. Right, there's a lacewing. So we had a question about the difference between lacewings and dragonflies. There is a lacewing. Sure. Well, I mean, it's not a great image. It must be magnificent. Let me put more light on it. There, how's that? I don't think blinding a lacewing is necessarily the most unethical thing to do because, well, blinding it would be, but I don't think we'd blind it. I think it just thinks it's daytime. I don't think it thinks at all, in fact. Ah, thank you from Get to the Point already. You say I have great eyes. Well, not many would agree with you, but they did manage to find that. which is good, I suppose. All right, what a stunning lacewing, Owen. It was a bit of a task, wasn't it? And all the time I was blaming you for being, well, blind, and there was a leaf in the way. And it weren't your fault at all. Apparently we're now going back to Lauren and David for a double header this time round.
Yes, you are back with Lauren and David. Hit me with the question, Kirst. The chosen question for our cameraman. David is listening. Okay, David, are you ready? I'm going to spotlight you to make sure you are safe. Do not worry. We're going to bring David round this side because he needs to speak into my microphone. Yes, I think this works. So don't worry, I will spotlight. Nothing is around. Do not panic. I'm going to hold the spotlight like that. Are you coming today, Davy?
I am.
It may be the sunrise safari, I'm really not sure. I think he's coming now.
Who was the question from?
The first question, I'm going to tell you it now, as he's walking around the vehicle. Ooh, matron, what is the gestation period of a gorilla, Davy?
I think it was a Zorilla, actually.
Oh!
Ooh, matron.
Ooh, matron.
Ooh, matron. Ooh, matron, I have zero idea.
Zorilla?
Yeah.
What's that?
Do you have any idea?
No, I have not.
It's not just me, then. But great question.
Ranger Robin, what is the greatest moment in your career?
Wow. That's tricky.
Buying his hat, I think.
I would probably say time spent in the Masai Mara was probably the highlight. Having 3 feeds out of there, completely new place, very special. All night safari as well. Sleeping with the prides, waking up with them in the morning, going live at the crack of dawn.
Sounds amazing. And working with James and I.
Exactly.
And having colleagues like James and I. Perfectly. Well done, Davy. Great question. Especially the first one. I also have no idea about that. I think you threw us both under the bus there. Good job. Are you on board, Davy? Yep. Okay. Let us rock and roll for the next few minutes to see if anybody is here. Oh, goodness, Kirsten is laying on the pressure. She says, I have 90 seconds to find her an aardvark. Whew, I'd love to find me an aardvark. I've never seen one. Oh, everyone enjoyed seeing you, Davy. He gets nervous, but he does well. We'll do another one tomorrow. I won't forget this time, I promise. Oh yes, he shaved off his beard. It's rather bizarre. I'm not sure I'm a fan. And he also got told he looks like, well, that James looks like his father. He looks like the son. Oh, don't know how I feel about that either. Oh. But think of your questions more, make them tough. Now, power lines is one of the ugliest roads, if I'm allowed to use that word, but we check it because it's direct access to the west. You have a chance of seeing Hukamuri, Shidulu, maybe even Sazeka, and that's why we check it. It's really not the most attractive road. So it looks like I did not find Kirsten her aardvark. I'm afraid. I am sorry. But I must say thank you to you all once again for jumping on board. We couldn't do it without you, and it's always a pleasure to have you on board. So from the whole team at WildEarth, both andBeyond and here, thank you and good night.